If I could give one piece of advice to a younger INFP, and only one piece of advice, it would be this. Learn fiscal responsibility at as young an age as you possibly can, because when you follow your dreams, it will be utterly vital to have financial discipline, because the things INFPs love to do don't pay well. I personally argue with that, but that's another conversation at the end of this video. But that doesn't mean you can't do them. It just means you have to be smarter with money than office drones. So it was a reader piece of advice sent in to my book, INFP Inspired, by the way, if you're curious. And I wanted to expand on that because fiscal responsibility or being good with money or just not going totally broke as an INFP is really important. And the thing is that quote hit something on the head, which is that the things INFPs love to do traditionally do not pay exceptionally well. They are the creative fields, writing, drawing, any kind of artistic type endeavor often. Or they might be something more entrepreneurial, which can pay really well, but you have like a really long runway, maybe of a year, 2 years, 5 years before you're, raking in the yacht money. So having the fiscal discipline and the runway is really important. I wanted to share a few tips for INFPs on money that are not those cookie cutter things taken from cliche financial advising books written for STJ types who have insane robot discipline. The first thing is to be as minimalistic as possible. I found this to be really easy for myself. I'm actually an ENFP, so we have some differences I'll touch on, but quite a lot of similarities. And being a minimalist can really help with money because you just don't buy things as much and your money doesn't necessarily have anywhere to go. Once you start to see new things as a bit wasteful, so for example, if you have an iPhone 7 and the iPhone 9 comes out, looking at it like, do you really need that? What's it going to do differently? What's going to be better for you than the old one? Is it really worth that financial commitment of $800 or $1,000 or whatever it is to get that new phone? Same with things like clothing. My feet hurt sometimes because my shoes are probably too old. Because I look at these dress shoes and I'm like, they still look good. I don't really want to spend money. Like I could spend that money, but that money could also go to savings or a trip or something like that. I can't claim to be like a minimalist, especially in the sense of living out of a backpack and having no possessions. I have a 4-room apartment here and too many cameras and different things, but definitely when I spend money, it's kind of painful. Like I evaluate every possible other option, before I go and buy something new that's not probably necessary. And so I would encourage maybe getting into some minimalistic blogs, podcasts, things like that, checking out some people who know it better than me. But overall, the attitude is just, do I really need to buy this? And one of the best ways to jumpstart this attitude, and it's really what did it for me, I can't claim I got into the subculture or got all weird about it, is I just packed up everything I had, sold or donated almost everything, and moved to Costa Rica 6 years ago. And when you put 4 tailored suits into the donation bin, you're like, I'm not going to spend that much money on suits again because they're in a donation bin. So basically starting over, getting rid of almost everything you have is a great way to kickstart the minimalistic thing. So trip around the world, something like that definitely helps. The second bit of advice I would give is actually not so much on the financial discipline side, but how to earn more money. And this is something that the reader advice they shared, which I think is great advice, but it really implied that doing something you love, especially as an INFP, there's not any way to make good money. And I personally think that's total BS. Visual services, so like being a graphic designer or some kind of artist, and writing, if you do it correctly, can be insanely well paid. When I was working as a freelance writer, I was living in Italy, Costa Rica, Barcelona, Spain. My clients were back usually in Canada or the US, and I was earning somewhere between $100 and $150 an hour. That's pretty awesome for writing in some cafe in Europe, right? And yes, I was good at what I did, and that's something that you should do if there's something you pursue, right? You should get good at it. So yes, I was good at what I did, but it's all about finding the value. And where a lot of artistic people go wrong is if you are working for clients, if you're trying to earn money from someone else, is not looking for the value. Like, how can my work most benefit my client? Because that's ultimately when you get paid the most. And I won't go into all the detail of it here. I'll link to some other videos where I cover this in more detail. But ultimately, if you can find a way to do work you love with people that you at least like, if not love, and do it in a way that aligns so they're receiving a ton of value. So basically, you have your client, you have their customer or their client, and you have the money flowing this way. If you can put yourself in the middle where you can help accelerate that through your skill, that is where you can be paid extremely well to do creative work. And so again, I'll link to some other videos on that. The third thing that I would share, which is kind of a nuanced, or I should say not a nuanced, a niche way of living, but something that's becoming more and more popular, is really look at designing your life in a way that leverages your income. I mentioned that I was working with clients in Canada and the US while living in Spain and Italy and Costa Rica. And generally, that meant I was spending less day to day. My cost of living was lower than that in where my clients lived. And that is a great way to live. If you can go live in somewhere, I know some people do this, like they move to Thailand or Bali where it's quite cheap. I personally prefer Europe, but if you can live somewhere that is a lot cheaper than where your clients are, or maybe you are right now a corporate drone or an office drone, as the reader said, and you want to pursue your own business and go off and write, let's call it a business, but go off and write like a novel and write a series of books, 3 novels, you want to do that and then build your life and your income around that writing. Well, why not move somewhere that's going to be a lot cheaper to do that? Move to maybe like former communist countries in Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia. Parts of South America are still reasonably priced, and live there for the year or two. And maybe your savings, which in the US or the UK might last you 3 months or 6 months, can last you 2 years. 2 years is a lot more time to work on that dream of yours and actually get it done. So leveraging yourself through geography is really huge, and I'd be lying if I said it didn't lend itself to part of my own success, where I was able to write books and build my coaching practice in locations where I wasn't living for like $3 a day, but my cost of living was maybe 60, 70% what it would have been back home. And that gave me a lot more runway to actually get things done and get things off the ground and all that. So thanks for sticking with me to the end here. If those last 2 items tickled your funny bone a little bit, then I'd encourage you to check out this training I have called the Life Design Approach. I'll send a link to it. Totally free, email-based training. Lots of funny stories about my travels and ultimately designing the life you want. And I cover a lot about this concept of value, as well as living abroad and leveraging finances in that way. So check that out. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I publish new videos each and every week. So click that subscribe button and the little bell beside it to get notified. And aside from that, catch you in the next video soon. Have a great day. Ciao.